All right, mic check, I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron, CWBA Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWBA Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and as always, I'm looking for the best talent and skilled people out there to bring in for you and get their stories on the air. This week, we are at FabTech. This is our second podcast that we've been recording, and it has been a really, really good time. It's only day 2, and we're already tired, but we're animated and ready to rock for the week. Today, this morning, we're starting off fantastically with Jake Brown, who's the VP of Hypertherm. Jake, how's it going?
It's going really well. It's like you said, great time to be here in Chicago. FabTech 2023. We're off to a good start.
How you feeling? Were you here for 2021, 2 years ago?
Yes.
And that was like the first post-COVID FabTech, right? How do you feel this one's comparing to that one right off the top?
So a little slow yesterday, right? So we are a sales organization, like to see a little bit more traffic coming through, but I'm assuming that's just the case of the Mondays. 2021 was just exciting because people got out of the house.
Everyone was breaking free from the fence.
Oh my gosh, yes. So there it was just a deluge of people. But this one, it's steady. It's really great relationships. It's actually my 4th year in the industry. So yeah, I'm feeling settled in, and there's people walking up that I actually know and good times. So 2021 was me getting to know the industry for the first time.
Kind of testing, dipping the toes in the water, eh?
Yeah.
That's an interesting timing. So were you hired just pre-COVID then?
Yeah, end of 19. So the very end of 19.
So like 4 months before COVID.
Yeah, so a very storied name in the industry, Jeff Decro. He'd led Hypertherm sales for quite a few many years, and I got hired to come in behind him. He walked me around. Most people told me, hey, there's really big shoes to fill. I usually answered with, I don't intend on filling those shoes.
I got my own.
Yeah, I'm a size 10 and a half wide. But it was a great start. And then March happened and slowed us down quite a bit.
So would you say, in a kind of a weird coincidence, that perhaps that might have been good for you in terms of getting into an industry that perhaps you didn't know everything because things were slow? You got time to learn. You got time to talk and communicate. You can Zoom everybody and figure out what everyone does, maybe meet staff. Just curious if that would have been, I'm always trying to find the silver lining, right?
Yeah.
Would there have been more opportunity to do those things if, during a break like that, as opposed to just, here you go, new job, and everything's at 1,000 miles an hour like Hypertherm always is?
Yeah. I like your approach for silver linings, and looking back, you always got to find them. Otherwise, you end up in bad places. I'd say for me, my role is commercial leader, right? So, vice president of Americas means I lead the teams in North and South America for sales, marketing, and tech service. The one thing you ever have as a commercial leader is that you've talked to more customers than anybody else in the management leadership team.
Right.
Little awkward because
tough.
I couldn't go talk to customers, so that was not the silver lining.
Yeah,
but
there's a barrier that you try to figure out, work around. Yeah,
got to navigate. But I think the silver lining is that we had the opportunity to put us as an organization, including myself, with new leadership, to the test and say, hey, how do you navigate this thing? That
what do we got to do management wise?
No playbook, and it was great for me because I came out of a very different kind of organization. And Hypertherm's so committed to its people because we are employee owned, right?
Yeah.
So we're all owners of the company and have some really core philosophies about how to take care of associates. And I could see that all around me especially the executive management team and the approaches we took to try and navigate safety and at the same time maintaining business continuity, because we recognize, Hypertherm products are used in the underpinnings of so many different processes.
And have been like a staple for a long time.
Yeah. And so if we had rolled over and not figured it out, there's a lot of industries that would have suffered.
In.
Yeah. And for me, it was also, to your point of you can Zoom everybody. Yeah. Because, people are available. And a lot of my team are outside salespeople that they've been on the road for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so you're just calling up and trying to figure out who are you as a human being, and are you staying safe at home, and What's the project that's keeping you sane?
And being, employee owned, having that personal stake is more and more rare in the business world. It's becoming something that's not as common as a VP coming into a company where this is the kind of the cooperative setup of the infrastructure. There must have been a certain personal responsibility you felt to make sure people knew who you were, what vision you were going to be bringing. Because you said, your own shoes, 10.5 wide, what are the steps that you're going to be taking? And how do you relay that out to such a wide organization, like between Hypertherm, Omax, like all these parts that move as a new VP? That's a big task.
Yeah, it was actually a transition for me out of another company where I'd served for about 13 years, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
it was it's got all kinds of life changes for me in the mix. But the thing I really found is it tested whether or not I've got a core leadership philosophy that I could come in with and connect properly. And I like to keep it really simple. I grew up on a farm. I'm one of 10 kids. My father always said he needed the free labor, and he worked our tails off, right? So he taught us to work hard. My mother on the other side taught us that you take care of the people around you.
Nurture. Yeah.
Right. And so I've always kind of fundamentally come back to that in my leadership. And it translates really well into being in an employee-owned environment because you are family in a certain sense. Yeah. And with family comes both the nurture and then the accountability. So that work and that care construct really fits well with the culture inside of Hypertherm. And I looked at it and said, well, what do I do here? I'm new. I can't go out and see the customers. What do I do?
How do you relay? Yeah.
And it became a moment to say, it's time to trust my leadership team. Yeah. Because these guys and gals have been here for a long time. Right?
They already know what they're doing.
Yeah. And they know the industry. The industry is a fantastic one. So really put a lot of trust in that and then focus on the things that allow me to come up that learning curve. And then ultimately, as we emerge from COVID, be in a position to strategically say, here's how we can tweak the company a little bit to be sustainable into the future.
So let's back up a little bit in terms of, the industry that you are in now. Where did you come from? This 13 years you were somewhere else. What type of industry were you working in before?
Yeah, so my previous employer was Danaher and then Fortive, which spun out of Danaher. Danaher, diversified kind of holding company, but inside of that, I worked in different industries, a little bit of automotive, manufacturing, and then majority of my time was in fuel retail equipment space.
Okay.
Which is it's a fun industry, very similar to fabrication and welding, in that it's tight knit, it's focused, and there's some big companies that are the fountainhead of bringing people in. Yeah, but then that all spins out and feeds the
and very technical industry too. There's a lot of public safety, a lot of certifications. So there's things that really got to get watched.
Yep. Yeah, so your regulatory compliance was critical, safety, because in there you're pumping fuel and you're putting electric motors in the fuel, things that intuitively don't make sense.
With no oxygen, you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. But as long as you're in a position where you've got the right team in place that really understands stuff, and I'm not an engineer, I'm very, very proud of all the engineers and technical people around me. Throughout my career, including my former industry as well as where I am now, that just figure this stuff out.
That's their passion. Let them go. Let them do it.
Yeah. I've got some sons that maybe will be engineers.
Yeah.
But, we'll see what happens.
I was a welder for too long. If my kids said they want to be engineers, I think I'd cringe a little bit. But
well, they're better.
But I know engineers, we love you. Sorry, but that is the joke. That is the joke among tradespeople. It's like, oh, this doesn't fit. Must have been engineered. So
I get that.
So you come in, and how's it been at Hypertherm? How's the journey 4 years in now felt like?
Yeah. So aside from what we were talking about with that onboarding hiccup of COVID that slowed us down for about a year, right? As far as core leadership, it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
And the things that I really look to that keep me energized is what we were just talking about with the associate ownership, the commitment to investing in people and putting together great products that no matter what are going to work. And that's the core of the brands. with Hypotherm, and then the Omax on the water jet side.
Yeah.
Just being proud that we've had the opportunity to grow into large share positions, and it's based on quality and performance at the customer. And that's been really, humiliating, or not humiliating, keeping me humble, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
staying humble is such the core part of that.
Yeah.
So that you stay on edge and say, well, okay, we're here to serve, not to just celebrate.
Yeah, we're not just pushing stuff.
Right. We're serving our people, and we serve our people because they can go serve our customers. And that's been, I think, the other thing that's really, really cool to me on the Hypotherm side is getting to know our channel partners, right? So these OEMs that take the plasma engine that we can build, and then they turn it into these amazing machines.
Yeah.
And just recognizing the talent and the passion and the leadership that they
Their
bring.
innovation on your product, Yeah.
And I just look at what they do, and I'm like, that's amazing, right? And they carry so much responsibility for what they do, and we're just a little piece of that pie in the heavy industrial side. And then light industrial is just fun because everywhere you go in the welding community, if you say Hypotherm, they've got some respect because it's so reliable.
Well, there's not a lot of players that are at that tier in like the plasma cutting forming game. Hypotherm's up there, and Thermodyne. There's a couple out there. So I find that in that it's sort of a niche market that a lot of people dabble in but don't take it too seriously. And then you have like the ones that's their game. This is what we do. And what I find that in my career working with Hypotherm products is that often it's the access to consumables that makes Hypotherm the step up, because the consumables are so easy to get. They come in 5-pack, 10-packs. You can do things like this where you like go to the job site and you just like load up and you're good to go. Where other I like, no shade, but you buy something from the hardware store and it's it works great until you burn out the tungsten on it, and then you can't find any more. And it's like, well, now what do I do with this machine, right?
Yeah, and that's core to the go-to-market structure, is make sure that we're there when the customer needs us, and that's a really important aspect of it, and it keeps Hypotherm going forward. And in the space of consumables, we're trying to stay out in front, and we've got our new cartridge products, which make it simpler to use, right? So we're trying to make it easier for operators, especially now with it's hard to get skilled trades anymore. A lot of young people aren't coming into it like they used to. Yeah. And
it's not their fault. They just, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah. And in the turnover, even if you do get the skilled trade, you train them and then they go make an extra 15, 20% somewhere else, right? So
it's a demanding field out there for employees, or for employment. When coming out of COVID, so I'm just remembering the timeline of, I go to lots of these events. Hypotherm came out strong out of COVID, and not all companies did. Some were very tentative, and I'm talking like the big companies. Even here in Chicago 2 years ago, you saw like the ESABs, the Lincolns, the Millers. Kind of everyone was like, they're the ones that usually get the massive floor spots, and we saw things scaled back, right? But Hypotherm had a huge spot. There was like a very obvious conscious effort there to be like, we're coming out of this at 100 miles an hour, right? Were you a part of that thought leadership on that? Was, how did Hypotherm decide, like, we're just going to go all in. We're not sure who's coming, if anyone's coming, but we're going to make sure that we're big and flashing right at the front door.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, it was coming out of my budget, but
but there's a lot of people involved.
And we're committed to the industry, right? And one of the things is to promote our brand properly and stay committed into the things that make this industry come together. And this is one of those cool events. Having the trade shows. And especially for our Omax business, right? So trade shows, not just showing up and showing the brand. We're here to close business and sell machines, and it's a critical component of it. And we wanted to see, hey, is it still there? And it turned out to be a very pleasant surprise.
That's what I heard from everyone.
Yeah, because the people that were coming through the door, they weren't just there to enjoy Chicago and see people again.
They're not window shopping.
But there's pent-up demand, and a lot of that was because the supply chains and everything else had been disrupted. But people need to build things.
Yeah.
And so it was fantastic to be remain committed, and we still do. We restructure our booths over time, of course, but we remain on both sides. We're in the fabricating hall as well as the welding hall because of the depth and breadth of our products. We're very excited by what that does for us as a business.
All right. So in my notes, I see that you're from Philadelphia.
Currently, yes.
Yeah, that's where you are right now. Where are you from originally? You said you grew up on a farm.
It was a Pennsylvania farm.
Okay.
I guess technically it'd be Eagles country.
Technically, it doesn't sound like you're an Eagles fan, though.
I am.
Okay.
But funny story around NFL teams. I was born in Denver, Colorado area.
Yeah.
And in my family, we all root for our birth city team as well as home team.
Okay.
Mama's from Philadelphia, so
All right. So there's a bit of an issue on Sundays.
I'm a Penn Stater, right? So I'm a college football guy first. When I was engaged, I came in to meet the brothers and all that kind of stuff. And they sat down and said, "Hey, what sports teams do you like?" And I said, "Well, I love Penn State." And they said, "Well, you can keep that one." I'm like, "Oh, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. You talk to your sister. I'm marrying her, right?"
Yeah. We're gonna start drawing some lines on the floor here.
Yeah, but no, we're all big Eagles fans. It's fun. We recognize that Philly doesn't always have the best reputation, but it's a fun sports town.
Yeah,
really appreciated the World Series last year.
Yeah, I find Philadelphia to be a pretty city. I do.
Yeah, it's got a ton of history. So anybody that hasn't been, please put it on the list of things to come to see. We got Independence Hall. That's where it all started, right? Constitution, Declaration of Independence. Yeah. And then great breweries around there. So something for everybody.
Perfect. Now you went to university. You said Penn State. Yeah. What was your undergrad? What was the young Jake dreaming of being someday?
So if we get into dreams, I grew up on a farm. And I don't know when it was, but somehow I got a copy of Fortune magazine. Oh, and I forget.
That is an odd thing to find on a farm.
Yeah. And I liked it. Right?
Yeah.
I said, I want to be one of these guys on the front cover, right?
Yeah.
Which translates to, I want to be a businessman.
Of some kind.
Yeah. I have no idea what that means, right? But I did junior college at a little college called Bernathen College, just outside Philadelphia. I went there for the religion, but also because I could play sports, right? So I could play lacrosse there.
Lacrosse, that's very popular in Canada. Very big sport. It's our national sport.
Yeah, and when I was growing up, it was kind of northeast and northwest were the only places. Now it's popular across the U.S.
Yeah,
but so that got me started, and then all my buddies were getting rich, construction or driving trucks or this kind of stuff.
Making money.
Yeah, so I'm 19. I'm like, I'm out of the school thing, and so took a little bit of time off, and I was sitting in a combine. I was part of a harvest crew, and making a lot of money. Right, I had my little checklist on the combine cab. This is Ford Mustang paid off, tires for the Mustang, gas for the Mustang. Right, simple life.
I assume you have a Mustang.
Life. And not anymore.
Yeah, I have a nice Mustang.
Yeah, good for you.
We could talk Mustangs.
I aspire. 69 302 boss. That's
man, you're going right there.
That's
my dream is a 69 Shelby, like the 2x2s.
Oh, look at you. Yeah,
that's my dream. I see them on Barrett Jackson. I am not there yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I actually, once you say Shelby, I don't think that's possible in my dreams. So 302 maybe.
Yeah, I got a California special now though. So
nice. Yeah, love it. I love your taste. It's well done.
Thanks,
but yeah.
So anyways, cool.
Where did I come from?
Yeah, combine checklist.
Yeah, and then I was in the middle of a 1,000-acre field, and for some reason, you have that moment of clarity. And I thought, when I'm old. The time that's 32.
Is what I want to be doing.
32 years old, right? I'm like, when I'm 32 and old, do I want to be doing this? And it got me thinking. I said, well, maybe I should go finish that degree. And so I borrowed the boss's, sat phone at the time and made some calls, got some applications, and Penn State made a lot of sense because it was a state school, so the price was really good. It's a really great school.
Yeah, it's well known.
And Penn Staters tend to have a really good attitude, so people like to hire them. Which,
great sports programs.
Oh yeah, and this could be a big year for Penn State in football, hopefully. And I was a wrestler in high school, so love Penn State wrestling. Just absolutely love it. I think it's currently the hardest ticket to get at Penn State.
Well, it's Olympic caliber. Like you see kids come out of Penn State wrestling, and they're hitting the Olympics. Like they're out there.
Yeah.
So What was the degree? What was the undergrad?
Yeah, so I went back with the intention now of really becoming that businessman.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to take a few classes at just a satellite campus before I went up to Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And met a professor there, and he's like, yeah, all businessmen need to understand decisions. And so you should be getting into this management science, right? So I actually went into management science information systems.
Oh.
And yeah, so at Penn State at the time, it was a newer degree.
Yeah.
And it took quantitative business assessment. So, think your stats and your analytics.
Data, yeah.
And then you put it together with information systems. And that was the degree. And it was run through the Smeal Business School. You had to take some cross classes with the industrial engineering school. I had to take engineering calculus, which that was my third run at calculus. Because I did it at high school, made it through, and then no AP credit out of that one. And then did it at my first college, but the Penn State looked at that and said, no, that's not high enough caliber. But
I killed calculus. I sucked at English, man. I don't know why. Like, I love to read. I read all the time.
Oh, nice.
But I went to university for philosophy, which is just reading basically. But I couldn't pass English 100. It was like I think it was just a complete lack of interest. When you don't, when you're not invested, it's tough, right? Yeah. And that's like the first level or the first lesson of internal management. Just because you don't care doesn't mean you don't try.
Right. So what are you reading now? Do you have something that's...
Yeah, like I'm a fiction reader, but I like historical fiction. So I love history.
Oh, nice.
And I love learning about, the sociological aspects of history, like different cultures.
Oh, cool.
So the historical fiction genre where they place like a fictional character within a historical period or context. Mm-hmm. I love that stuff, man. Because then I learn about an area, but I also have like a story I can follow. So it's not like a textbook,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to stay engaged.
Yeah, that's what we got lots of lessons to learn from history. So we should be learning more from history.
Yeah. Oh, I encourage it. Yeah. I think more people should read. It's a great way to just disconnect and then, like you said, learn stuff.
Yeah. So when you graduated school, you had a couple years off or so, a little bit of time off. How old were you at this point? When you got a fresh undergrad at Penn State?
Yeah. So I came out at 23 years old.
Okay. Yeah.
So ready to hit the world. And at the time, it was 1999, and I finished up. Actually, I studied abroad in Budapest, Hungary.
Yeah,
and so newly minted, we're going to take on the world. Ended up getting a job with PwC Consulting.
Okay,
because at the time they were all over campus, the big consulting houses, and they said, "Hey, we're going to teach you business and show you the world."
Mm-hmm. Game on.
Yeah, pretty inspiring, right? They showed me the world, one Marriott interior at a time. But
that is what you find out.
Yep. But it was great onboarding to taking me from, hey, here's this construct of what it could be to
theory to action. Yeah.
Yeah. And I started wearing glasses at the time. A couple of reasons. One is I found out I couldn't see so well in college. That's
a good reason to wear glasses. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other is so I didn't look like I was 23 years old when I was telling a C-suite guy what he needed to think. Right.
Yeah. So that first gig, were you stationed overseas? Were you in Europe for that?
No,
or was just in and out moving around?
Yeah. Came back. I was tied to the Baltimore office to start.
Okay.
And, would travel to where the jobs were. And it was good start.
So that puts you, I'm going to guess you're somewhere in mid 40s,
Late.
Okay. So I just turned 48 yesterday. So yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you. We had a good time last night.
I'll let you know what the next 9 months feel like. The knees are a little more sore, but you got to stay in it.
Yeah. No, I wear good shoes. I try to stay on top of it, but, so, you're working out there, you're now hitting your 30s. What's the aspiration for you? You said you had that Fortune 500 magazine. You're like, I want to be that person.
Yeah.
Well, now you're starting that journey. First gigs, first, tastes of customers and getting hopefully the education you got put into action in some way. What's the steps? What were you looking at? Where are you going?
So I was looking at PwC to meld me and then figure out where to go with it. Right. Yeah. So I didn't think I was a partnership track guy, because I've got execution in my blood.
Yeah. Want to move around and stuff.
Yeah. And, trusted advisor. It's fun, but it's not the motivation.
You're pretty removed from the front lines at that point.
Yeah. And then I got married. And I always like to say I married for love, and it wasn't great kissing her goodbye every Monday and missing the plane coming home on Friday, right?
Yeah.
So you go, all right, well, something's gotta change a little bit. And then there was the Enron problem. And all the big consulting houses got sold off, right? So PwC Consulting that I was part of was getting sold into IBM. And I had an opportunity to jump, and I took it with my partner's encouragement, actually, to go to Ariba Software Technologies. And they had collapsed after the dot-com bubble, and they were trying to build out consulting on top of their software program. And they hired a few folks like me to come in and do that. And it was a lot of fun. But
would it be like considered almost like a startup again, even though it was an existing company, but kind of that startup mentality?
Yeah, because we were going out and saying, hey, they hired consultants, but they said, okay, now you're tied to the software, so you've got to consult to promote the software.
Okay, so it's a kind of a mixed gig. Yeah.
And I had the technical side, like I could actually write Java at the time. I wouldn't touch it again, but I could write it at the time.
Java's still used.
And
It's still,
for sure. Yeah. My son's taking it right now, and I'm always like, hey, you want some pointers? And he's like, no.
Get out of here, Dad.
But yeah, and then I did the business consulting on top, right? And it was fun. But at that point, I had figured out I don't want to be a consultant forever, and started looking around, how do I get more into the industry side? It turned out, because I was married and we wanted to start a family, if I'm going to get this MBA I've been thinking about, let's go do it. And so we figured out how to get into an MBA program, and then that became my transition into the industry side.
The MBA program has become a real hot thing for people to do. Like it was seen as a thing that only business people did. I came up in the 90s and into the early 2000s. It was like, okay, if you're a businessman, or a woman, you need to do an MBA to do anything. And I find that now MBAs are across all fields. Engineers with MBAs, it's everywhere. How was your MBA journey? Did you like it? Like, did you 2 years, 1 year, 3 year? Like, there's all different variations of it from different colleges.
Yeah, so I actually had the very great fortune to be accepted into Kellogg at the time. Was in the top 5 places to go do that, and I went full time. There were a couple factors that allowed that. One is my wife had a fantastic job that could flex, and so we could move to the Chicago area and stay together. But she could help with the finances. And it became an awesome experience for me, mostly because of the international people that come in, and then just those relationships that you build. And I'll never claim to be the smartest guy, but I interact with a lot of people that are super, super successful, and it just gives you that cool extra network layer to explore a lot of things. And that's what I use that time for, because like I said, I was working to get out of consulting. And so how do you go figure out what is
what's
next?
the next step?
And it's amazing when you're in school. I don't care if it's undergraduate, high school, master's. Other people are so much more willing to talk to you, because you'd be like, "Hey, I'm in school. Can I get 20 minutes? Just talk about your job."
All right.
And people are like, "Yeah, of course." Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a great time to explore. As far as it being hot, there's certain industries where you've always needed to plug in the MBA at some point if you're going to keep advancing. Others appreciate the learning that you get out of it. It does give you an amazing set of frameworks to use to think about business. As far as going full-time or part-time or not at all, what I encourage people to think about is, do you know exactly what you want to do right now?
Yeah. What are you going to do with it? Yeah.
If you do, just go do that.
Yeah.
If you've got possibilities, and this could actually help fit into advancement because you need the stamp, because it's a credential in the industry
open up
you're
options
in,
for you.
or it's going to open up options, or just you want some extra frameworks to think about the job you do. It's a fantastic experience if you can pull it off.
Awesome. Now, so we've gone through. You went back to school. Now I'm putting you at like early 30s here now.
31.
So you're back to school full time, which I find going back to school as an adult to be a both beautiful and stressful thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful because you're an older, more mature person, and you get way more out of school.
Yeah.
Like you have the ability to understand things. You're less shy. You communicate better. Even with your instructors, you said the networking, these things start to become more natural, organic. But it's tough to go back to school as an adult because you have to set aside so much of a structured life that you've built over X amount of years. that experience in itself must have been a learning experience for you. You know, the wife's, helping, you're in school, you got the backpack on again.
Yeah.
So, what was that like as an adult going back for more learning?
I really enjoyed it, right? So one of the things, I don't know, is a pro or a con in how I approach life is where I am is where I am. And so it's not surprising, and I don't get stressed, which is lended to my ability to navigate, international business and all these places. And I accept where I am. I found it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just you're back in that learning, like you were talking about, like your mind's opening up. You've been in a swim lane for, in my case, 5 years. And now you're exploring new concepts. It's a fun structure because, there are many goals, right? You're just working for that next grade, and then it's all done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like where else? When you're in a career, the steps matter because you burn a bridge, you're in trouble. School, it's a GPA, right? It's a grade point average. So there could be some good ones and bad ones.
It doesn't matter. As long as you got that stamp, no one asks you what you got.
Yeah. But it also, because you're there for the purpose of positioning yourself to go, pursue next level professionalism, it really lets you challenge yourself differently in the classroom. And I found that really refreshing. When you're undergrad, GPA does matter, right? Because a lot of companies, screen on that as a first step. And so it matters very differently in the undergrad. And sometimes you might have chosen not to take the load that you could have, or take that extreme class that you might have thought would stretch you as a human being, but you didn't want to take the risk. Whereas now you're in the classroom with people that are just brilliant.
Yeah, and they're all taking that risk too.
And the professors are super cool, and just in some cases younger than me, right, at the time. So you're like, wow, these people are really put together. And so if you were willing to put yourself out there and take the risks, have the awkward moments, you could just push to the next level for sure.
Yeah,
and it tapped in. There's a lot of people that put a lot of passion back into the school where they went, and you could go to an evening lecture, and there's a CEO of a company that was in the Fortune magazine.
Yeah.
And you could learn from them, and they give you the time.
And that's, the networking. We're at FabTech right now, right? And the concept of networking is something that I always push so much onto, the listeners, the people entering industry, people that have been in industry, and not necessarily for, I would say financial reasons or leveling up your career, but also just for solidifying your position in terms of what you like to do or where you're at. By having a larger network system, I find that you win on all grounds. Like you win all around you just by the more people that you can reach out to, or send a quick text or being like, oh, I'm stumped, or I got an idea. And the more people you can reach out to, the better that system gets.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's key to joy in life, is figuring out how to navigate people. And I think they say now, research says it's like 5 to 8 people that you could be tight close friends. And being one of 10 in a family that's tight, I think I'm over capacity already. But
mom, dad are already off the list.
Somebody's got it. It's got to crack, right? But networks in general, just finding people that you can, through shared stories or experiences, have those moments of joy is amazingly powerful. It gives me so much energy, and it's probably why I lead a commercial team. Is because it's where I find my energy is other people, and especially learning their stories.
Right.
And I think that's the key to networking, is taking the time to listen to a human being and find out what journey they're on and where they came from and where are they trying to go, and if possible, can you help them get that single next step that they need.
I love that. That's exactly one of the points I have in one of my presentations I'm doing later today here at FabTech.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's one of the points. And, it's having a clear transparency to a work pathway, and that requires communication.
Yeah.
Like if you don't communicate, or even have, people sometimes get scared of the word communication because they imagine in their heads them going down, say a senior leader, right? Going down and shaking hands and kissing babies to every single employee in the company. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. Like, there's a few people that you may want to do that, or the opportunity comes up, sure. But just even having the mechanism of communication within your workplace is so important, where people can feel validated because they feel heard.
Yeah.
Because I can say, hey, You know, I'd love to perhaps be a foreman. I've been here 3 years. You know, how do I get there? And then if no one ever follows up with you or brings it up to you again, you immediately feel that you don't care. And you might get a raise, you might get a bonus, you might get all the things, but the thing you said went nowhere. And you feel like you lost something, like you're not happy now. Whereas if someone just takes a moment to say, okay, let me put this into your file for HR. There might be some training coming up next year. We don't know if there's going to be a position open, but let's start working you towards that anyways and see what happens. It's amazing the changes you will have in your employees and your workforce by just having that aspect of communication.
Yeah. No, 100% with you. I think there's two sides of that conversation. One is listening, understanding who the employer or associate is, and their aspiration, and then being very clear on here's how you can do it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it comes down to that single next step. And I liked how you said that, which is somebody's got to do something next.
Yeah.
And it's got to be visible.
Yeah.
And if it's not visible, that employee's sitting there going, I wasn't heard.
Yeah.
I think the other aspect of communication that's so important to not lose sight of is the opportunity when it presents itself to have the little moments of recognition, right? Just the thanks, right?
Yeah.
You know, or letting somebody know that was pretty cool what you did. You took care of the customer, or you reduced cost of something because you pointed out that
or a good idea, even you know, like, hey, that piece of paperwork that you said we should change that box to over here. Good idea. That's awesome. Like,
yeah. Well, I've got 3 rules around recognition when it comes to product environments. I think there are 3 moments, and you got to take them. One is the idea. Yeah, I love that. Somebody has a new idea, you recognize it right there. Yeah, because that's a low cost moment for a company, right? It's
coming from the right direction, which is the people that do it.
Right. Yeah. The second is when you take that idea and get a plan in place to go execute it. Celebrate the fact that you took an idea and actually said we're going to do something with it.
Yeah.
And then the third moment is when you execute and it actually works.
Yeah.
Don't wait for it to actually work. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of ideas that never get celebrated because sometimes the plan can't come together.
No, and sometimes it doesn't work, but that's fine. That's fine. And that structure we just talked about, where the idea, being heard, plan, execution, right? These 3 steps you talked about, 2 of them are management side.
Yeah.
Right. And often I think that a person who has the experience and the education like yourself, the employee expects you to, that's part of your job. Like, I had an idea, but they don't have the experience or education to do the other 2 steps. So they come to management to being like, hey, this is my idea. And I've been at companies where I've seen this and I don't like it, but it's like, okay, well, here's your idea. What would you do next? Well, that's not what they're experts at. They're experts at doing what they're doing, and they had an idea. On this side of the fence, we're the experts that are supposed to be really good at planning and executing. So let's not put the pressure in the wrong direction here. Like you said, let's us look at this and see how we can take our expertise and our abilities to make this a real thing.
Yeah, I like recognizing that it's a shared path for sure. Yeah. I think also, really exceptional companies make it very transparent as to what happens to ideas.
Yeah.
Right. And the one where I think you always should start is what happens with a customer request, right? Mm-hmm. When a customer asks your company a question, do you know how they're asking the question? So where do it come call from? You on the phone? Does it come out of the internet? Does it come out of a trade show? Wherever it is. But then what happens to that inside the company is so important to understand. And because it's a team sport. At the end of the day, it's always a team sport in any company that's probably more than 5 people, to take an idea and figure out how to flow it. So having that transparency in how stuff works so that frontline associates can see it and they know that here's how it's gonna occur, and then get back to, in the case I'm talking about, the customer, right? So I think the worst thing that can happen is something goes into the company and it's a black box and customer never hears back from you. Then when it comes to ideas on how to improve stuff, once again, how do you change inside of a company? And this is really important. And at Hypotherm, it's cool. We've got a nice system around continuous improvement. So there's what we call CIAs, continuous improvement. Oh, I forget the A.
Applications.
Yeah, something like that.
Activities.
But these are little ideas.
Yeah.
And they'll be scoped where if you bring it up, you should actually see the solution. And it should be implementable at your level, right? So you don't need a lot of people to
to chime in.
Figure it out. But then there's the bigger continuous improvement opportunities. And how do those ideas get
structural changes or whatever?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where we're still, I call us kind of in the tween stages, right? We're not a little company anymore. Hypotherm's been around 50 years. Omax is 25 years this year. And so we've got some tenure on us, and we're pretty big now. We're worldwide a little over 1,800 associates. But we haven't evolved to where we've got really huge structured processes. But where my experience and my passion, because I've seen it work, applies here is really around lean tools, right? So pushing tools down so that you don't have to go too high in the organization to allow change to happen.
I love lean. People, if you're scared of lean or you heard bad things about lean, educate yourself. It's fantastic.
And it's not just for the factory floors.
It's everywhere. Business, paperwork, processes. I'm a level 2 lean manager.
Nice.
I took my training years ago for management in shop floors, fabrication shops.
Yeah.
And once I got into management, it was the exact same skills and process breakdown, like the value stream and breaking everything down. And I use it today, like the way we structure what we do. And it works awesome. Well, and it's about that push. Don't wait for it to ask, have it ready,
Right. And what I think is really empowers it is if you push the tools down so that everyone knows, hey, I've got some guardrails and I'm allowed to work inside these.
Yeah. And I have all the things I need. Yeah.
And if I make mistakes, it's going to be fine. Right. And I think that's really important. And then if it comes up, it's a bigger thing like a structural change.
Yeah.
It flows up and it's visible to the people, right? That actually would be impacted by it and they get to contribute. And if you do that well, it's an amazing system over time. So, I'll just end by saying, hey, if this podcast thing doesn't work out, we could team up on some of these lean practices around the world.
Well,
I'm rooting for you, though.
Thanks, man.
I think you got this.
I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And
if you make me look good, that's going to be a tenant in your cap for sure.
Coming into this world, the hypotherm world, and now like this fabricating welding industry, it's huge, but it's not. Right. It's big money. There's big money that moves around in this sector. But there's not a lot of players and there's not a lot of people. I think there's I'm in Canada. In Canada, I think we have 80,000 welders over 34 million population, and it's about exactly 10 times that for the U.S. U.S. is sitting at about 360 million, I think, right now, something like that. And I think there's about 800,000 welders. So it's not that many if you think about it. It's not that many. But the amount of product that gets pumped out, the amount of stuff that gets built in the Americas is impressive. What's the learning curve been for you coming into this tightly knit yet huge market?
Yeah. I shared earlier that I came out of a similar industry, like fuel retail equipment, similar kind of structure, and that very global, right? So I knew people around the world, and it's a small community. And so what I'll say is you don't want to tick anyone off, right? Because
it gets around.
Yeah, it's kind of like you go to a little college or you go to a big college. One advantage of big college is if you mess up on a date, there's still a girl will talk to you, right? But joking aside, the industry is fantastic, and it's so anchored in respect for hard work and delivering fantastic products, right? And that gets right into my core lifeblood of what I want to be and who I want to be and being part of something. It also helped for me that I grew up on a farm. Yeah. And
so you saw the results of this industry on a day-to-day even.
Yeah, my baby sister, she's married to a gentleman that's got a fabrication shop. So, just small welding and light fabrication.
Does he have any hypertherm machines?
He does. So, funny story. When I first was reached out to from hypotherm in the recruiting process, I was in a car driving, and I take a phone call and talk to a gentleman that explained some stuff. It sounded really interesting. And at the time, I was vice president of international sales, so I was gone a lot and was trying to figure out how to reposition the home. And he goes through this, and I'm like, oh, it sounds pretty cool. And it was a good pitch and all that kind of stuff. And I hung up with him, and I call my brother-in-law Bergen. Yeah, I said, hey, Bergen, I just got this call from a guy. He's talking to me about this company. It's like something therm, blah, 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 right? What is this? It's in your space, though. They cut stuff. He said, if it's hypotherm, you call them right back right now. he's like, they're best at what they do. Product, bar none. Since I've joined, I'm proud to say that he did buy another unit from us. So he's
Is there a family discount?
No. But he did get access to one of my best sales guys. And unbeknownst to the fella, I won't remain nameless at this time.
At this time,
he was doing all this work for Bergen. Who was he's got 4 machines, four hypotherms, one on a light table, and then 3
couple bigger boys.
3 for in the field work.
Yeah,
but he's getting all this special service.
Good,
which is just core. And then
it's just the way it is.
Yeah, and then our salesman was dropping something by his shop in Pennsylvania, and my sister stepped out to accept it. And I don't know what the connection was, but all of a sudden he figured out, wait,
there's family.
This is Jake's sister. Which was one of those.
And then she got charged twice as much. Now the machine doubled in price.
That's right. Friends and family discount. No way. You pay extra. But it was a fun story because I also I called Bergen up when I found out. And said, hey, Bergen, have you been being taken care of? He's like, yeah, Jake, it was great. I came on the booth and he was at FabTech 2021. And I introduced him to some folks, and that's where he got the connection. But I really appreciated it because it wasn't because he was family that he got the service from Hypotherm. It's because that's what our field people do.
Yeah.
And it was a cool story about making sure that Bergen could hit a project schedule, and he was having some trouble with one of his hypotherms, and no questions asked, just take care of him.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. So he's upgraded since then to the Sync product and really likes our new cartridges, and he's
got all the toys fun. Now.
Yeah, no, I do owe my big brother because we during COVID, I've got an old '79 CJ5.
Okay, fun.
Took it up to the farm, and my big brother is a better mechanic than me. He helped pull the engine out, and we had that rebuilt and then put it back in the Jeep. So I owe him a gift. And I keep thinking, well, I'll use that employee discount, but we've been behind in supply chain for a while.
You feel bad pulling something off.
So I wasn't going to pull anything from a customer.
Yeah.
We're caught up now. So this year we're comfortable. Back.
It's on record.
Yeah.
It's on record.
Yeah.
It's coming this year.
Lead times are good. Yeah. My big brother's named Josh.
Yeah.
So if he subscribes to his podcast, he may get something.
Yeah. So anytime between the next 3 months to 3 years, Josh, you got this.
Yeah. But he's a farmer. He finds some uses for it. And his son's trained in welding.
Oh, fantastic. We need so many of them.
Driving truck right now. I'm trying to figure out how to encourage him to step across.
If he likes driving truck, get him to start welding in a truck and trailer shop.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for welders like crazy, and truck and trailer shops pay well, and that's good work.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's hardworking boy.
Yeah.
And our family believes, like, obviously I got a couple steps of education on me, but if we look across my family, trades, service to the country, all kinds of things you can go do.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're getting out there and doing something.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
All right. We're coming to the end of the interview here, and
nice.
I got a few questions. Thank God. No,
I was thinking you're doing so well.
No, we're burning through an hour like nothing. So I got a couple questions here. The first one is, and I'm not sure if this is like directly a department that you deal with, but one of the things I've always enjoyed about working with Hypertherm is I used to teach in the college systems for a number of years. And Hypertherm was very involved with education programs. You guys have free training online. I took some of the courses and took off my little, Hypertherm certificates, and they were great. This is like before it got really into the world of online. So like it was a leader in, online technical training and dropping off machines from service reps for schools to try. And here, let the students play with this, or coming to show off machines and having a day. Hypertherm, no matter where I went, was pretty involved. Even at our head office in Milton, we got a rack of Hypertherm machines that were just dropped off to say, hey, if people come through, let them use these machines so they can try them out. And then you guys have nice machines at no cost just to show them off. How much of that, is a core of Hypertherm, that educational support level?
Yeah. So I'd say it's absolutely core. So to who we are and our ethos, it's part of it. We give community service time up to 40 hours for associates to spend giving back into communities as our big first investment in the communities, because we believe that you're not just a business by yourself. You're amongst the places you live.
It's incredibly important for the longevity of a company.
And so that's the foundational principle of our core beliefs. If you go up then to education, obviously it's good for us as a company and as an industry to make sure that people have an opportunity to educate, but also you're giving back in a way that here's a young man or woman that could have a shot at learning about a industry that could be a fantastic career into the future. And so we still run a program where we donate to schools each and every year. Yeah. So there's an application process, and
that's for U.S. and Canada, because in Canada I was at a college that got one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Sparks. What's the name of the program? It's
you're putting me on the spot.
I should remember too. It was like the Arc Sparks program or something. Or anyway, it's a simple thing to apply for. It's just a form online, and you can get your schools out.
Yeah, and we try to look to help direct that towards schools that are disadvantaged in some ways, right? So that there's opportunities for people to climb up the ladder, and so that's really important to us. Also, typically our area salespeople, they're focused on where's the education for the industry in the area, and they spend time with demo machines like you were talking about. Yeah. They'll even sometimes, if there's a big program, show up and give some equipment into that. And then the final way that we like to give back is just with our time itself. And so a lot of our folks will show up at events to speak or promote towards the young people.
Tri-trades and fairs and job fairs.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And it's we still do that. We still believe that's core just investment in our community as an industry.
Now, as an ex-international manager, is that core process that we see here in America around the world? Is this where Hypertherm goes? This is what it does, period. Like if I'm in Essen, Germany this week instead of here, would I have seen a Hypertherm booth with stuff? Or schools, is there that same support in other places? Just curious.
So I'd say we're the most evolved here. It's our home market. We've developed over time for sure. So we've got the more advanced programs around the education and the equipment like I'm talking about. But we have facilities around the world. So we have sales service and support offices in Europe, in Asia, et cetera. And so where we are, we invest back into the community. So all of our associates, and it's a global initiative for us to give back.
You got something in Chile going on?
In Chile, not currently. Is it why Chile?
That's where I'm from, and we just set up a new chapter.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, there we go. The Spark Something Great grant.
Oh, there we are. Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we would never forget that.
Well, we need a coach sometimes. Right?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Everybody needs help in some way, right?
All right. And for the last question to kind of wrap this up is, what's next for Jake? What's next for you in Hypertherm? Yeah. Where are you going?
So we've been talking quite a bit about next steps, right?
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that careers are built on helping others achieve their own, right? And right now we have Omax. Omax was an acquisition in 2019. Kind of ran into COVID, and that slowed down some of the integration and that sort of thing. So what's really important for my teams here in the Americas is to make sure that we all know who each other are. It's a different go-to-market structure. Omax, we're selling OEM equipment direct. In the water jet space, in the plasma, we're through channels, et cetera. So it's a little bit different game, but making sure that we sense that we're all one team inside of Hypertherm Associates. And we're proud to promote these brands that are fantastic in our spaces. So what's next is really solidify that, find ways to grow. We keep hearing about recessionary tendencies, but we're hopeful that we're an industry that doesn't talk ourselves into it.
Yeah.
Right? And so things are holding up really, really well right now. But we've just got to be in a really good place. And I firmly believe that the best team wins. And so investing in the teams that I have the privilege to lead at this time is really what's next for me in the next 6-12 months. Make sure that we're well positioned, and then if things keep going well, who knows? There's
Take over the world.
Well, I did say I've got 4 kids, so I'm not playing a short game here. I gotta stay employed for another 30 years, probably.
Yeah, 30 years. Oh man,
It's a good industry to do it, though. Good
It
industry.
is. I keep talking about when my retirement age, because since I was a kid, I was like 57. I'm not working a day past 57. Everyone that knows me is like, there's zero chance you're stopping to work.
Yeah.
Like you're not ever gonna not work. It's like, well, define work, I guess.
Exactly.
Define work. If it's what you love, is it work?
Yeah, I think my wife knows that she needs me going to work at some level, just because I'd be a little too stir crazy. But yeah, I'm with you. And welcome to year 48 on that journey.
Thank you. Sounds like you just got there.
We're sharing some steps. I'm a little bit ahead of you. So,
Okay, all right.
I'm about 5 months ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jake, for coming on the show. I very much appreciate it. And any shout outs or something you want to say about either yourself or the company?
Well, I'd say Hypotherm Associates, we're just proud to be part of this industry. Really, really happy that customers continue to support us. And if you're buying an Omax or Hypotherm gear, you're going to know that we're putting everything behind it, each and every one of us. And so thank you. And look forward to another 30 years in this industry.
Awesome. And thanks for all the listeners that have been following along. We're having a killer time here at FabTech. I'm a little tired, but we're going to keep rocking and rolling as always. And stay tuned for the next shows that we got coming out this week. It's going to be amazing and always lots of fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the show.